Welcome back to episode 5 of the Google Flights Guide. This is our second to last episode, and we're going to be talking about some of the tips and tricks to know about some of the nitty-gritty aspects of Google Flights. Specifically, we're going to be talking about currency issues and how you're able to edit the currency that Google Flights shows you. Booking with a travel agent. Sometimes Google Flights is not able to match you up with an airline to book with, so we're going to talk about what it means to book with a travel agent. And finally, we're going to talk about separate tickets. We're going to start our discussion today by talking about currency. Now, as a general rule, flights always are booked in the currency of their origin airport. If I'm departing from the United States, no matter where I'm going, my ticket will most likely be priced in US dollars. Now, Google Flights does allow you at the very bottom of the page, on any page within Google Flights, to change your country, and this would just simply change the layout, whether there are decimal points or commas, and more stylistic features. But the more important one is going to be the currency page. You can select out of dozens of different currencies here for your display currency. Now, what I want to show you here is that the display currency does not necessarily change the currency that you'll be booking in. So if we take an example flight from Dublin to Los Angeles, we can just select some random dates. We'll do May 21st through 28th, like in a previous episode. And now that this is loaded, we'll just take the first example here, this Lufthansa flight connecting in Munich in both directions. Now what I want to show you is that since we've set our currency preference to US dollars, that's going to be the largest currency shown here. It's going to be bolded, and it's going to be a larger font. Now, on some of these, for example, with Lufthansa, with United, we're actually seeing in smaller font that it's booked in euros. The US dollars is just an approximation given to you for your convenience by Google. Now, there's a lot to consider here. A lot of people have credit cards or debit cards that charge foreign transaction fees. In these cases, it may be better to try to find one that's actually booked in US dollars. For example, Flight Network, GoToGate don't have any smaller font with another currency, meaning that the US dollars is your final booking currency. Priceline and Orbitz are two of the most common online travel agencies in the US, and those are both going to be booked always solely in USD. You cannot book in any other currency. And while we're on this page, I'd like to talk to you about what it means to book through a travel agency. The first thing to understand is that Google Flights itself is just a search engine. They are not a travel agency. Google Flights is simply consolidating a number of different fares found all over the web, and they are giving that information to you and then providing these helpful links that allow you to book with another travel agency or with the airline. Google Flights makes money off of this through affiliate commissions through the links that they're giving you. So that's why they do this. When you book through an online travel agency, basically what that means is you're adding a middleman into your transaction with the airline. So in the case of booking through Expedia, for example, if we follow the link here, it'll just take a moment to load. It'll take us, just like through the airline links, to a page where we can see the entire itinerary and we're ready to book the flight. Unfortunately, it looks like the price did increase a lot, but nonetheless, we do see all of the information here. The travel agency often does give you a lot of the same information the airline does about change fees, baggage inclusions, etc. But the main thing to keep in mind with an online travel agency is that if there's a schedule change, delays, cancellations, it's going to be a lot harder to get support directly from the airline. Often this will require you to contact the travel agency, which will then have to contact the airline for changes. As such, I often don't recommend that you book through an online travel agency unless that's the only choice. Now, there are some increasingly rare circumstances where Google Flights isn't actually able to show you any links to book. And in this case, what it's going to tell you is book with a travel agent, and it'll show the price. This is, again, increasingly rare, but it does happen when Google Flights is simply unable to match you with an airline or a travel agent to process your booking. In these cases, often you are still able to use an online travel agency. Simply going to Expedia.com or Priceline.com and manually searching your flights on the dates you're requesting will often return the result at the price Google Flights is saying. Last thing we're going to talk about in today's episode is separate tickets. Sometimes Google Flights will identify a flight itinerary where it's cheaper to fly out on one airline and return on a completely different non-partner airline. And this means that you're going to need to make two separate bookings. So to take a look at an example, we're going to use the multi-city search. We're going to fly from Phoenix to New York JFK, and then we're going to fly from DCA Washington Reagan Airport back to Phoenix. Now after we search this, the first thing I want to do is sort by nonstop only. And the first flight we're going to take is this Delta Airlines flight from Phoenix to JFK. Google Flights has recommended under their best flights back to Phoenix that we book with Frontier, which has a connection, but I'm much more interested in this American Airlines flight, which is nonstop. Once I select it here, we're going to see that the page looks fairly similar to what we've seen in the past. The only difference is that under the fare options, we're going to have Flight 1 and Flight 2. And in this circumstance, what we're going to need to do is select which one we want on each flight. And in these cases, you would be free to mix and match. You can select Basic for one and Main for the other. Now, once you go to your booking options here, it's going to say separate tickets. The two tickets in your itinerary must be booked individually. When we actually select the flights, you're going to see two different links and the respective prices for each of those, followed by your total price. It's important that you follow the instructions here. Book each ticket separately, but one right after the other. Prices with airlines are subject to change at any moment, and oftentimes there's no way to know when a change is coming. So if you do book, you want to book these in close proximity to one another. The other thing I want to point out is that oftentimes airline change fees and cancellation fees are based on the reservation. What that means is that if we were to book this as one round-trip ticket with just Delta Airlines, then we're only going to need to pay one change fee if we were to change any part of the trip, including if we change both directions. By booking two separate tickets, one with Delta and one with American, we're going to have two separate tickets that we have to manage with the individual airlines, meaning that if we need to make a change, we're going to need to contact both airlines and we're going to need to pay change fees with both airlines. That's the biggest drawback that comes with purchasing separate tickets. Now, if you've already decided that separate tickets isn't something you're interested in booking, if you remember back to episode 2 when we talked about filters, just by selecting the More icon, we're allowed to hide the separate tickets. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to episode 5 where we address some of the advanced topics in Google Flights. Google Flights also has a number of different travel tools, the Trips, Explore, Hotels, and Packages, which will all make you a smarter traveler and save money doing it. So we're going to dive into some of those tools and exactly how you can use them to save you money. Thanks so much again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe below, and we'll see you next time for episode 6.